Title: The Price of Silence. Chapter 1: Shadows in the Dust. The dry wind carried dust across the narrow streets of Makoko, Lagos. Children chased each other barefoot through puddles of muddy water. The scent of roasted maize mingled with the smell of brine from the nearby lagoon. Life moved with the rough rhythm of survival. In a rickety building made from rusted zinc sheets and salvaged wood, Nkemdelim Okoye, a 38-year-old widow, folded clothes into a nylon bag. Her son, Chika, just turned 17 and had passed his WEC with distinctions, the first in the history of their family. Everyone said the boy was destined for greatness, that he would become the doctor Nkem had never been able to afford to see. She had fought for every opportunity he got, cleaned other people's floors, worked night shifts in a pepper soup joint, and sold second-hand clothes at Yaba Market. All for Chika. He was her heartbeat. The only thing she hadn't sacrificed was her integrity. But now, a man had come offering to change their lives, for a price she didn't yet understand. His name was Chief Bassi Ekanem, a big man with political connections and an eye for useful people. He wore imported suits and cologne that lingered in the air like deceit. He had visited their home 2 nights ago, right after news of Chika's exam results spread across the neighborhood like wildfire. "I can help your son," he said, smoothing his fine caftan. "I can place him in Unilag immediately, full scholarship, even abroad if you want, but I want something in return." Nkem had frowned. "What kind of something?" "Your silence," Chief Bassi said with a smile that didn't reach his eyes. "About something you saw, or maybe didn't see. Depends on how you want to remember it." Nkem had seen something, all right. 1 week earlier, while cleaning an office at a government building, she had walked in on an argument between Chief Bassi and another man, a journalist named Dipo Adebayo. Dipo had a recording device and a file filled with damning evidence of embezzlement and land grabs. She had only seen a glimpse before they noticed her. Chief had smiled and offered her a gift of $20,000 to leave and forget. She hadn't taken it, but she hadn't reported it either. And now Dipo was dead, found in a gutter with a knife wound to the neck. "Think well, Nkem," Chief had said before leaving. "In this country, you pick your battles. Some are won with guns, some with mouths shut." That was 3 days ago. Now she stood in her room, staring at her son's sleeping body, wondering how to protect him, from the system, from men like Chief, and maybe from herself. Outside, a police siren wailed in the distance. Something was coming. And silence, it seemed, had a very high price. Chapter 2: The Offer. 2 days after Chief Bassi's visit, Nkem sat under the mango tree near the bus stop, the evening sun pressing down on her shoulders. Her phone buzzed in her pocket, an unfamiliar number flashing on the screen. She hesitated, then answered. "Auntie Nkem?" a man's voice said. "My name is Inspector Haruna, Lagos CID. I'd like to ask you a few questions. It's about the late journalist, Dipo Adebayo." Her stomach sank. "How did you get my number?" she asked. "We're talking to everyone who worked in the government building where he was last seen," the inspector replied. "Can we meet? Please, I'm not accusing you of anything." Nkem hesitated again. "Tomorrow, I sell clothes at Yaba. I'll come after market hours." She ended the call and sighed. The walls were closing in. The secret she carried now had a scent. The scent of danger and of something deeper. Power. Someone was watching. She could feel it. When she got home that evening, she found Chika sitting at the table with a thick brown envelope. "Mummy, look," he said, eyes shining. "This man came today. He gave me this." Inside were brochures for universities in the UK and Ghana, an application form, and a new smartphone. There was a note, handwritten in crisp cursive. "The future you dream for your son is already here. All you need to do is accept it. B.E." And Nkem's hands trembled. "Did he say anything else?" "He said you should check your phone, that everything has been taken care of." She turned away so her son wouldn't see the tears forming in her eyes. That night, she barely slept. Her thoughts wandered between 2 possibilities: accept the chief's offer and escape poverty forever, or speak up and risk everything. Chapter 3. A Past That Won't Stay Buried. The next day at Yaba Market, Nkem sat beside her stall, her mind far from the clothes she was meant to be selling. Women bustled past her, shouting prices, haggling. Life in Lagos never paused, even for grief or guilt. She looked up and saw Adaora, her childhood friend, waving and walking toward her. "Nkem, long time," Adaora said, embracing her. "I hear say your boy Don turned genius. Well done." Nkem smiled weakly. "We dey thank God." Adaora looked at her closely. "You don't look all right. Wetin happen?" She wanted to tell her. Someone. Anyone. But she held back. Instead, she asked something else. "You remember that year in Enugu, when we saw the thing in your uncle's compound?" Adaora's smile faded. "That one. I still get nightmares sometimes. You think I ever forget that?" Nkem nodded slowly. "Some things, you see, even when you don't want to, they stay." Adaora took her hand. "Be careful. Whatever it is you're carrying, don't carry it alone." Chapter 4, The Inspector. Later that day, Nkem sat across from Inspector Haruna at a quiet cafe in Surulere. He was younger than she expected, maybe mid-30s, with sharp eyes that missed nothing. "Madam, I won't waste your time," he said. "We know Chief Bassi had dealings with Depot Adebayo. We also know Depot was about to release a report that would have ruined a lot of careers." Nkem remained silent. "The last time Depot was seen alive, you were cleaning the office next door," the inspector continued. "Is there anything you remember? Anything at all?" "I just remembered hearing raised voices," she lied. "But I didn't see anything." The inspector leaned back, disappointed. "Look, if you know something and you're afraid, I understand. But the truth always finds a way out, even in Nigeria." He handed her a card. "If you change your mind, call me. And be careful. This isn't just about politics. It's about survival." Chapter 5. A Mother's Dilemma. Back at home, Chica was watching TV, headphones on, and Nkem stared at the envelope again. Everything she'd ever wanted for her son was inside, but so was blood, Depot's blood, and hers if she wasn't careful. She opened the envelope again, this time slower, inspecting it. There was also a flight itinerary, Accra, Ghana. Departure in 2 weeks. It was real. She remembered something Depot once said at a government press event. He had been speaking to a group of young reporters. When the truth is buried, it doesn't rot. It grows into something dangerous. What would Chica become raised on a lie? She looked at her phone again. The inspector's card was still in her bag. Chapter 6. The Line Crossed. 2 days later, Nkem arrived home to find her door ajar. Her heart leapt. She dropped her basket of tomatoes and rushed inside. Nothing seemed out of place until she reached her bedroom. Her clothes were tossed on the floor, drawers opened. Her son's envelope of documents was gone. "Chica!" she screamed. "Mummy?" He emerged from the bathroom, water dripping from his face. "What happened?" She hugged him tightly. "Was anyone here?" He looked around, confused. "No, I didn't hear anything. I was in the bathroom." Nkem's hands were shaking. She searched the room again and found something chilling. A matchstick tucked under her pillow. The red tip snapped. A symbol. Back when she cleaned government offices, she'd overheard drivers talk about it, a warning used by a private gang called the Red Wing, men loyal to powerful politicians. If they left a snapped matchstick, it meant they were watching. The next time, they might strike. They had entered her home. That was the line. She picked up her phone and called the number on Inspector Haruna's card. "I'm ready to talk," she said. Chapter 7. The Confession. At a hidden safe house in Ikeja, Nkem gave her full statement to Haruna and his team. She recounted everything she saw, Chief Bassi arguing with Depot, the files, the threat, and the offer. Haruna leaned forward. "Will you testify if it comes to that?" "I have no choice." The inspector nodded. "We've been after Chief Bassi for 5 years. You're the first real witness we've had, but you'll need to stay somewhere safe. And your son, too." She hesitated. He has an exam in school. Ma, Haruna interrupted gently. This is bigger than WEC. Chapter 8. The Trap. That night, Nkem and Chica were moved to a government-run witness protection house in a quiet part of Badagry. It was simple. Concrete floors, a backup generator, and 2 police officers stationed outside. But the protection didn't last. 3 nights in, a call came through on the landline. No one was supposed to have the number, Nkem picked up. I see you're still brave, the voice said. It was Chief Bassi, calm, cold. Leave us alone, she whispered. You think the police can save you? In this country? There was a pause. Let me show you what truth really costs. The line went dead. A few hours later, the generator went off, the lights cut out, and someone opened the front gate. Chapter 9. The Night of Fire. The 2 officers stationed outside ran to intercept. Gunshots rang out, 3 sharp cracks. Nkem grabbed Chica and shoved him under the bed. She locked the door and reached for the knife she kept in her purse, hands trembling. Footsteps approached the hallway. She could hear someone speaking in Yoruba. Make sure Sadam no survive. Oga talk him clearly. Nkem raised the knife as the door creaked open. But just then, another gunshot, close, then another. Silence. A few seconds later, Haruna burst into the room. Move, now! He and 2 other officers rushed them out through the back. A black SUV was waiting. You've just made history, Haruna said breathlessly as they drove away. Chief Bassi sent a hit squad, but we intercepted them halfway. 1 escaped, 2 are dead. Nkem couldn't speak. She held her son, who was crying silently. What happens now? She finally asked. Haruna looked back at her. Now we bring the lion down. Chapter 10. The Fall of the Chief. The trial began 3 weeks later. It was held at the High Court of Lagos State. The courtroom was packed. Journalists, lawyers, police officers, even foreign observers. Chief Bassi sat in the defendant's box in his fine agbada, expression unreadable. The prosecution laid out its evidence. Embezzlement of N2.1 billion, witness intimidation, and conspiracy to murder. Then Nkem was called to the stand. She walked slowly to the witness box, dressed simply, her hands steady. The entire courtroom went silent as she spoke. Her story, from the mop in her hands to the blood in the gutter. She ended her testimony with one line that echoed through the courtroom. I thought poverty was the worst thing that could happen to me. But I've seen something worse. A good country, destroyed by silence. The room erupted. After weeks of testimony and evidence, Chief Bassi was found guilty. Sentenced to life imprisonment. Epilogue, a new beginning. 6 months later, Chica stood at the airport, a suitcase in his hand, passport ready. A scholarship from an international NGO had come through. He was going to study political science in Canada, and Nkem hugged him tightly. Remember what we fought for. I will, he said. I'm going to fix this country, Mum. I promise. She smiled through her tears as she watched him walk toward the gate. In her pocket, she carried something. A tiny snapped matchstick, now whole again. A reminder of how close she had come to losing everything. And how courage had brought her back. Chapter 11. A New World. Chica had never seen snow before. Stepping out of Toronto Pearson Airport in a borrowed winter jacket, he felt like he'd stepped into another planet. The university was beautiful, the people polite, and the lectures intense. But under the surface, something nagged him. In his second semester, Chica attended a guest lecture by a human rights lawyer named Martin Arundel. The talk was about corruption in African politics and how stolen funds ended up in Western real estate and banks. Chica raised his hand. What happens to the people left behind? The whistleblowers? The victims? Martin looked intrigued. They are often forgotten, but they're the ones who truly shift the world. Do you know someone like that? Chica didn't answer, but that night, he started digging. He searched for Chief Bassi's foreign connections and found a series of offshore companies linked to Canadian banks and Dubai real estate. His mother had helped take down the man. Now Chica was going to take down the money. Chapter 12. Enemies in High Places. Back in Lagos, Nkem was no longer invisible. Her testimony had gone viral. She'd been invited to speak on Channels TV, met with NGOs, and was even offered a seat on a state anti-corruption advisory board. But not everyone was celebrating her. One night, she found her market stall ransacked. A crude note was left behind: "Stay in your place." Inspector Haruna called the next day. "We have intel that some of Bassie's old allies are regrouping. They're not happy that you're speaking out." "Let them come," Nkem said, voice steady. "I've already lost fear." But she wasn't naive. She knew Lagos, knew that the system didn't forgive truth-tellers for long. Still, she kept going. Every week, she gathered young people in a borrowed church hall, teaching them how to document corruption, how to report safely, how to resist. She called the group Voices of the Forgotten. And it was growing. Chapter 13. The Foreign Trail. In Canada, Chika had partnered with a professor who specialized in financial crimes. They began tracking suspicious transactions linked to Chief Bassie's network. The deeper they dug, the more they found: luxury homes, dummy companies, even oil shares in a Russian firm. Chika reached out to a Canadian investigative outlet with his findings. The article they published was explosive. "Nigerian corruption funds traced to Canadian shell firms, government officials implicated." The Nigerian government, under pressure, opened new investigations. 2 former ministers were arrested. But Chika had made enemies now, not just in Nigeria, but abroad. One night, someone slipped a note under his dorm door. "They killed your mother's friend. Don't think they won't come for you." Chapter 14. The Attack. Back in Lagos, Nkem had just finished a community workshop when a small boy ran up to her. "Auntie, come quick! Your house! It's on fire!" She sprinted through the dusty streets, heart pounding. When she got there, the building was engulfed in flames. Her neighbors were using buckets of water, screaming. She stood there, paralyzed. It was the same house where she'd raised Chika, where she'd cried in the dark and prayed for better days. Now it was ash. A day later, a letter arrived at the police station. No signature. Truth burns. Chapter 15. From Ashes, a Storm. The next morning, Nkem stood on a raised platform in Yaba, addressing hundreds of people who had gathered to support her. "I have nothing left to lose," she said into the microphone. "They tried to silence me. They tried to burn me out, but I will not stop. We will not stop." The crowd roared. Social media lit up. Nkem trended for 2 days. People across Nigeria, traders, students, teachers, began organizing. And from across the ocean, Chika watched the live stream and wiped a tear from his cheek. His mother had become a movement. And now it was time to return home. Chapter 16. Homecoming. When Chika landed in Lagos, the air hit him like a memory, thick with smoke, diesel, and life. He wore sunglasses, but people still recognized him from his mother's viral story. A few clapped quietly as he passed through immigration. A woman whispered, "Nah, her son be that." Inspector Haruna met him with a guarded smile. "You sure about this?" Chika nodded. "I brought more than just my luggage." He handed Haruna a flash drive. "These are transaction records, offshore accounts, names, dates. My professor verified them, and there's one more thing." He pulled out a sealed envelope. "This has a signed whistleblower statement from a Canadian banker. It ties everything back to Chief Bassie, and beyond." Haruna's face hardened. "This could destroy some of the most powerful men in Nigeria." "Good," Chika said. "They've been destroying us for years." Chapter 17. The Gathering Storm. Within days, the revelations hit Nigeria like a hurricane. Major news stations aired the story. Chika and his mother were invited to the National Assembly to testify before a special anti-corruption committee. Nkem wore her best Iro and Buba, her headscarf wrapped tight. She stood before the politicians, the same men who once ignored her, and told her story again, this time louder, and with her son beside her. But power never dies quietly. Later that night, Haruna got a tip. A contract had been placed on Nkem's life, and possibly Chika's. "We can't protect you forever," he warned. "You need to disappear. Let the country finish the fight. But Nkem shook her head. No more hiding. I'd rather die standing than live on my knees. Chapter 18. The Betrayal. 2 days later, the unexpected happened. The committee disbanded the investigation. No warning, no explanation. Then came the real blow, a press conference. The Attorney General appeared on live TV, claiming that the documents provided by Chica lacked authenticity and were part of a coordinated foreign smear campaign. Chica watched the screen, stunned. "They sold us out," he whispered. Later, Haruna called. "We just got orders to pull surveillance from your mother's safe house." "Why?" Chica asked. "Because someone higher up gave the order." It was over, unless they took it back. Chapter 19. The Broadcast. Nkem and Chica reached out to an independent media outlet known for its fearlessness, Niger Unchained. In a live, uncensored interview streamed to millions on YouTube and Twitter X, Nkem laid it bare. Names of the politicians who'd benefited from Bassie's embezzlement. Photos of properties abroad. Audio of Bassie threatening her life. And Chica's full set of verified documents. "This isn't about me anymore," she said to the camera. "This is about our children. We let our country rot so long we don't even smell the stink. But no more. If they kill me, let the whole world know who pulled the trigger." The video exploded. Within 48 hours, there were protests in Abuja, Lagos, Port Harcourt, Kano. Hashtags like #Fight for Nkem and Our Take Back Niger trended globally. The government tried to block the video. VPN use surged. The truth was out, and they couldn't contain it. Chapter 20. The Reckoning. Under mounting international pressure and mass protests, the president of Nigeria addressed the nation. A special tribunal was established. Arrests began, including 2 serving ministers and the former attorney general. Chief Bassie, still in prison, was placed in solitary confinement after it was discovered he had been coordinating intimidation campaigns from inside. Chica returned to Canada to finish his degree, now hailed as one of the most influential youth activists in Nigeria's history. Nkem, meanwhile, declined all offers of political appointment. Instead, she founded the Center for Public Truth, offering protection and legal aid to whistleblowers across Nigeria. At a press conference months later, a reporter asked her, "After all the threats, the losses, the danger, was it worth it?" She smiled softly. "Yes, because silence would have killed us slower." Chapter 21. A year later. Yaba Market buzzed with life as usual, shouting traders, clinking pans, danfos honking like angry geese. But there was something new, too. A small white building stood at the far corner. Its sign read, Center for Public Truth, Nigeria HQ. Inside, Nkem sat behind a desk, counseling a young teacher who had come forward with evidence of embezzled school funds in Benue. She listened patiently, nodding, then handed him a form. "We'll help you file it anonymously. If anything happens, we'll know, and you won't be alone." Since the tribunal, over 50 whistleblowers had come through her door. Some were afraid, some were angry, but all of them trusted Nkem. She had become the face of quiet courage in a country trying to find its voice again. Chapter 22. Return to Ashes. On the anniversary of the fire, Nkem and Chica returned to their old home, or what was left of it. The building was still half burnt, the blackened frame of the roof exposed like bones. But someone had planted flowers where the gate used to be. A little girl had written on the wall in chalk, "Auntie Nkem saved Nigeria." Chica laughed softly. "Kids are dramatic." "She's not wrong," Nkem replied. They stood silently for a moment. "I want to rebuild it," Chica said finally. "Not just the house, the area. Make it a hub for civic education. Teach kids what the schools won't." Nkem looked at him, heart swelling. "You've become the man I prayed for." "No," he said. "You made me the man." Chapter 23. The Last Trial. But justice, even when delivered, never comes without pushback. Chief Bassie's legal team filed an appeal. A new judge, young, ambitious, and rumored to be connected to one of Bassie's old allies, was assigned to the case. It was possible he could go free. The country held its breath. Nkem was called to testify again. So was Chica, this time as an expert witness on foreign money laundering. The judge delayed the verdict twice. People feared the worst. But on the final day of the appeal, the courtroom was packed, not just with lawyers and press, but with students, market women, youth corps members, old men in Ankara. And when the judge finally read the ruling, appeal denied, sentence upheld, the room erupted in cheers. For the first time in a long time, Nigerians felt they had won something without giving a bribe or burying a body. Chapter 24. The Seed and the Soil. Ankem now hosted a weekly radio show called Voices We Refuse to Bury. Survivors, activists, and citizens called in to share their stories. One day, a man from Katsina called in. "I used to think nothing would ever change in this country," he said, voice trembling. "But when I saw what you and your son did, I believed for the first time. I told my boss no last month. He was stealing fuel money. I reported him." There was silence for a beat. "Thank you for making me brave." Nkem wiped her eyes before speaking. "Thank you for being the future." That night, she wrote in her journal, "The soil is poisoned, but the seed is strong, and one day it will bloom." Chapter 25. The Price Paid. In December, Chica graduated from university with honors. He returned home and launched Project Reclaim, focused on teaching anti-corruption tools in secondary schools across Nigeria. At the first seminar, he stood on stage in a hall packed with teenagers. He began his speech with a photo, his mother standing beside a smoky ruin that used to be their home. "This," he said, "is what truth looks like when it costs everything." Then he showed another, his mother beside the new civic center that had replaced it. "And this is what truth looks like when we refuse to let fear win." The students rose to their feet, clapping. In the front row, Nkem sat quietly, tears in her eyes. She had never planned to become a symbol. She had only wanted her son to live free. And because she spoke up when it mattered, now he would. The end? Don't forget to like and subscribe.